Hello, everyone. Um, just thought I'd start another live stream today. We are working in Houdini today, and I will be showcasing a very cool plugin called Groombear. It's a plugin which enables you to do a lot easier, more user-friendly grooming. You can actually, I don't know, manipulate the guides a lot easier than it is just with the regular tools. It costs a bit of money, but it's really worth it. Let me actually bring it up here on so you can actually see what I'm talking about. Groombear. I'm just loading it up quickly. Let's just bring it over here. This is on top. So yeah, this is essentially what it is. It's just obviously now a quick demo, but I will be showcasing this a lot nicer. We can actually draw curves easily. They are manipulated with animation and VDBs, and yeah, you can see. I'll showcase all of this. But before I jump into all of this, I just first want to know if everything is actually working for you guys, if the audio is good, and if the screen resolution is good. So I'll be waiting like maybe a few more minutes before I actually jump in. In the meantime, I can talk a bit more about Houdini, what I did here. So I loaded in the digital Emily asset, which you can get for free online. And after this video, I'll post a link in the description below. Let's just see, some connection. I think it's all good. Let me know, leave a message if the stream is good. I'll ask as well. It's all good with the stream. And yeah, so I downloaded that. What you need to do, because it's an alembic, it's pretty much a packed alembic. It's a term in Houdini, which means it's more efficient. Then you need to unpack it to actually get all the groups and geometries. And how this model was done, you can see that the eyes have been mirrored to, just mirrored over. So they have a negative scale. So what I had to do some kind of reversing the normals and also flipping the scale values, so it's actually then working better. Let me actually move this looking and sounding perfectly. Great, that's the first time actually the stream worked out of the box, and I'm on time today. Amazing. And from where's everyone joining today? Like, I know it's now 1 p.m. on my side, so it means it must be a bit later for people in Europe or even further away. So I hope it's fine. And the stream will be obviously uploaded later, so you can always scrub through and whatnot. And this will be more a laid back thing, I think, because I'm myself learning Houdini, I'm learning grooming. I just thought it's like next to look dev and lighting, grooming is a big part of the asset as well, because most of the assets we have, except like robots and stuff, they have some kind of fur or groom or whatever. So I find quite a lot of joy in just doing this. It's very calming for me. So yeah, I watched lots of tutorials on grooming and XGen and Houdini, and even shave and haircut, I think, was one of them I worked with. And yeah, so quite a few different packages, and I always work a bit more. Actually, I was working on Spectre. There was a little scene in Spectre where there was like a little rat where Daniel Craig was like imitating to shoot at the rat, and I was not really doing the groom of the rat, but I was helping and setting up the shaders and working directly with the groom department to get the look right. So that was a nice process for me. But yeah, so digital Emily, I did scale it down. When you bring it into Houdini, it's like super huge. It's like 10 meter scale. So I just scaled it down. It's still not physically correct. It's now a 1 meter head bust or something, but it's a bit better. I don't want to go too small because the defaults for Groombear and all the other softwares, they are a bit, I think they're not set up for work in like real scale, 1 centimeter scales. Yeah, so I'm just reading the comments. Hello, everyone from all over Florida, India, LA, Germany. I think that's all I can read there. Great. So I transformed those to make it a bit smaller, and then I was fixing the normals, which is like a little, let's just move these guys down so you can see what I'm doing. So I have a little backdrop here where I'm just blasting the assets off. Blasting means pretty much isolating or deleting. So I just delete the eye, then I isolate the eye. So I'm reversing it, and then I'm creating normals again. And I think I'm doing this for the iris as well. So, and then I'm just merging them back together, and then we have a fixed eye here. Yeah, blast the eyelashes, because actually the geometry comes in with lashes, these guys. So they are curves, or actually I think curves which has been extruded, but I just thought I'll do something from scratch. So I'm just removing them. And then what I do as well, I'm subdividing the asset. So it's a bit smoother to paint on. And the next thing, what I want to do, because it's like you can use the built-in, like it for collision grooming, it uses VDBs, which is like a volume grid to have more accurate like collisions. What you can do, you can also set up a manual VDB. So all you need to do is VDB from polygons like that. And then we just hook it up. Like, let's just collapse this. And I'm trying, like, if you have any questions about hotkeys I'm using or if something is unclear, please just ask a question in the comments. I have it on my second monitor, so I'm always looking over to look at the chat. And now I'm just hooking up the VDB from polygons, which will create me a volume grid. But the problem first we have is that the volume is not closed, so it's open at the bottom. So I need to create a polyfill like this. And bring this in, so this will fill up the hole here at the bottom like this. And then there's some issue with the face, and the problem with that is there is actually a tear line coming in from the model. So let me just delete non-selected. So I'm talking about this tear line here, which is a problem because it's single-sided, and I just want to delete that. So I'm just moving it over here to 3D connectivity, so I can just select this piece. And then I need to select the one on the other side with shift. Let's try this again. Okay, we've got this one, and we've got this one, and now I'm just hitting enter. And now we just have them isolated, and I can just do flip this around. So now they are gone from here to here. Perfect. And then I'm just doing the polyfill again, and now the eyes should be fixed. Nothing is visible. It's only filling in the bottom. And if I do now the VDB, it should be fine, and it is fine. And then we can just adjust the resolution. Right now it's 0.01, so let's go 0.1, 0.01. And we still have the lashes here, so I actually need to pick this from here. So now the lashes are gone. And that's the beauty of a node-based system, right? You can just hook up from any system or any location in your node stream. All right, so I think we still need to subdivide, or not subdivide, but increase the voxel resolution a bit more just to get a bit more detail. So let's just try 0.075. So now we have a bit more detail. I'm not sure what this thing is. Oh, it's still broken. I thought I fixed that. Oh, it's not. Oh, because the poly count changed because I'm reading it from here now. So we just need to do this again. Sorry for that. 3D connectivity, this guy, and this guy. All right. Okay, now we get. There we go. All right, so next up, I would say is creating our output. So we just create some nulls. Nulls are like objects which do nothing. It's just like output points or like locators or whatever. It's something you can work with. So out is the all caps is the default for Houdini, and I'm just creating another one with alt click and drag the node, which will duplicate that, and I'll just call this out VDB like this. So this would be my initial asset work or setups I need to do, and now we could actually start going into the groom. We have a clean asset. What I see people do, and I think I need to do that as well, but not for this video at least, is to extract certain things where you just want to apply like a certain part of the groom, like for instance eyelashes. you should just extract maybe the line on the eye where the eyelashes are. But for in my tests, what I did, as at least for now, it was working fine just to use a whole head and then use a density map. It might be faster to actually extract the stuff you only need. We can actually try that if we need to, but for now I think it's fine to just use the whole head. Cheers. All right, so just checking the stream. Everyone has been quiet, so but I think we're still good. Excellent connection. Great. All right, so let's just head up a level. Hitting U goes up a directory. So this is my context, my object context, and in here I just have the geometry, and that's it for now. So this is the Emily. Shift W is wireframe on off. So what I want to do next, I just want to do like the default setup from Houdini for grooming. So what I need to, I'm just changing my interface to grooming, and then my hotkey, which is the C key, which opens up the menu, the radial menu, is set to Groombear. And obviously I will not be talking about how to install it, whatever. There's lots of guides on there, and actually from the guy who sells it, there's like, he's got like 2 amazing tutorials as well. So I don't bother, you can look it up if you need to. So all I have to do now is actually go into open my shelf here. I just collapsed that because it's like I need some more screen space because my DPI is now a lot larger for you guys to see better. And so I'm just selecting Emily here, and I'm clicking the first option here is add fur on the hair tools. And because I had it pre-selected, it already knows where I need to assign it. Just asking now if I have animated geometry, which I don't. So I don't select anything. I just hit enter again. And what it will do now for me is create all of this. So this is now creating guides, and it's creating the hair gen on top of that. What we will be starting today is with the eyelashes. So for them, I need to do like individual placements of each individual guide, and I will be using Groombear for this. But before we do all the fancy stuff, I'll just give you a very quick introduction to Groombear. So in the guide context, I jump in here, nothing is in there, and all I have to do now is utilizing the radial menu, which is very amazing. It's very flexible and you can work very fast with that. So in the meantime, actually, I'm just hiding pure ref. Oh, or I just leave it there, it doesn't matter. And I just hit C and go to base options, and then I go to tools and I click groom up here. And what it does, it connects and creates this Groombear node, and it will take the input guides, and then on top of that, it will create you the Groombear guides. Essentially, it's just curves. It's all the same. It's just a bit nicer setup. I already have some defaults, like for instance, my curve width and the curve profile. But that's, I think, all I did. What is in mode? Yeah, that's the only thing I changed. So you shouldn't worry about it. It's just like adjusting. I can show you. It's just the width of the curves, right? It's nothing too crazy. So what is Groombear? It's actually a HDA, which is like a Houdini digital asset, which consists of lots of different tools within this. But on the outside, it looks like a single node, but it's actually not. It's very complex. It has lots of features, which are great. So hitting C will open up the radial menu, and the first thing I can do is just use a comb, for instance, right? So I can make it larger, shift middle mouse dragging, and then I can just comb over this stuff, right? So this is essentially default grooming stuff. What else? I can then have shape tools, which is pretty like different names, but it's easier just to shape them like this. So it's not a comb, it's actually just manipulating the individual primitives or the points on them. A cool feature with Groombear is you can go to the mode options and make this a bit smaller here, and then there's a preserve maintain length. If you disable that, the cool thing is you can actually drag them outside and you can sculpt them. Like, let's say, would you want to do this, right? And you can draw whatever you want to do, and you can use grab as well, which will then gives you even more flexibility to just pick individual hairs and just move them. Then they have an option which I like as well as a draw mode. I'm not sure if that's common, but you can actually drag and just draw the curve you want. And I think if smoothing is on, it will actually do some interpolation on it, like that. And you can add more points, more subdivisions, which will give you more detail. So if I go up to 25 sample points, resample this, I think the curve should be now a bit more detailed. And you can see now we've got these nice little curls, and you can go crazy. You can do whatever you want with this, right? Very nice and detailed. And then you have masking options. So you can do a quick select. Let's say I just want to pick this curve here. Now only this one is selected. So now I can go back to the shaping menu, and then I just manipulate only this curve. And if I want to go back to all the curves, I can go back down and go to full, and now all the masks are disabled. That's a cool thing. And another cool thing is if I just want to actually use my regular transforms like rotation, translation. For that to work, you just go to C again. Holding C opens up radial menu, and I can go to edit. And then in the edit menu, there is an option, sort of the edit brush. You can hit 4 to select a primitive. Pick a primitive like this. It's always a bit tricky to get this one working. Let's try this again. Edit, hit 4. No, we broke it. No, we broke it. Let's try this again. So let's try shaping first. Okay, shape is there. So now let's try the edit again. Brush, edit, and now we hit 4 for primitive select. Not sure. It's always, as I said, a bit tricky to do this. Maybe I need to disable this. Sorry for that. Maybe we just skip this feature. Because I'm not sure why it's not doing what it's supposed to. Let's try again. Edit. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever, we just skip it. So essentially what it allows you to, you can just select a primitive and you can just use normal rotation to just actually rotate it. And we'll try this again when we are on the eyelashes, because I was using this and it was working just fine. Then you have scatter brushes to increase the density. So if you reduce the closeness here, you can actually draw more curves in certain areas if you need more detail, and it will interpolate from the surrounding curves as well. What else? We have brushes. We've got clump brushes, scale brushes. We can actually move things, which are nice as well. You can move them on the surface. So if you need them to be on a very specific location, you can just move them over, which is amazing. You can use a force brush, which is right now a constant force going downwards, like a gravity brush. So if you apply this, it will actually go in a downwards direction. So if I would do this, everything would like fall down based on gravity, which is pretty cool as well. Hello South Africa and Paris. I can say Hoegaandet. That's all I can say. At least that was Afrikaans. And then we have lift brushes. That's basic stuff. And we have got swirl brushes, which are cool to create some kind of rotations. Like as if there's some kind of, I'm not sure actually what it's called, like little twists of your hair, like that. And then swirl paint, mask brush is cool if you want to brush and select a certain amount of curves like this. We can do then a shape brush, and we can just move them out, for instance, so it's only selecting these, similar like a masking brush, right? All right. And then we've got fall offs, which are like just how the brush is affecting the curves. And we've got mirror options. Obviously, my mesh is not symmetrical, so mirroring won't be as great. But essentially, you can just go here and mirror the whole groom to the opposite side. Very cool. I can try it, but it obviously will not work very nicely. And it does on the selected object. So now everything is selected. If I mirror this now over, you can see now, obviously it's broken, but it's now mirrored on this axis here, which is cool. So essentially this is what Groombear is. you've got like, obviously you've got this animation painting, you've got lots of these features which we will not be covering today because my mesh is not animated, and I just want to actually get into quick grooming like brows and lashes and stuff like that. All right, so I think the basic intro is done. So and before we jump into doing the lashes, I just want to first of all say thank you for everyone who is joining now, and also for everyone who has been my supporter for a while. It really means a lot. It helps me just keep going, and I'm motivated to actually sit down on a Sunday and actually do live streams for you guys, because I have fun in teaching, and I think you have some fun to learn something from me. And also we have a very great Discord community which is growing super fast. We have, I'm not sure, let's actually check. We've got quite a few members already, and it just keeps growing. It's insane. So now we have 1,173 members already, which is a big achievement. I started this, I think, a month ago, maybe even a bit less. So yeah, so if you join now, you would see your name pop up here. Amazing, right? But yeah, so it would be great to see you guys over there. Like, it's growing. We've got lots of talented people here. We've got some team challenges. Right now we are working on a still life, which is somewhere at the bottom here. This guy. So we have quite a few people already modeling for us. So we've got this amazing trumpet model, and essentially what we're trying to recreate together is like this still life here. So everyone on Discord, or everyone who wanted to participate, is actually modeling or texturing some of these assets, and then we bring them all together in one scene. And somewhere I have a combined one, this one here. So that's what we have right now. So we've got a few objects already, so we're just waiting for everyone to actually get their stuff out there. All right, so I think at least that's enough for the plug. So let's just delete that Groombear node and actually now get started into the grooming side. So we've got the Emily groom, and I'll just rename this to Emily. Let's start with the lashes. And then the hair gen, the same thing. Call this lashes. And that's what I like to do. I just like to split out all the different kinds of types I need to do. So I will have a separate lashes, separate eyebrows, separate vellus hair, which is the peach fuzz. Maybe even separate additional side hair, like sideburns, and then the top hair. So quite a few things, and I'm not sure if we will do everything because it will be repetitive, but essentially this is what I'll try to do. You can hit C to color stuff red like this. And also before we go now, just would be great if you could actually share this stream, share it on your social media pages, just to get more people active in the stream. And we right now have 53 viewers. So we want to push this a bit, right? Last time we had actually 200, which was very impressive. All right, so if we view this, we have all these different guides, and we don't need that. We just want guides on the lashes. So what I want to do, I just kill the density like that. So no density at all. And all we want to do now is actually paint individual guides where the hair will be generated. But before we do this, I want to go into the Emily, because I want to paint where the hair will be generated, and I just want to actually draw a region around the eye line where the lashes will be. And looking at my reference images here, which is actually a pure ref software, I can actually show them a lot nicer. So you can see the density of the brows, they start to increase. So it's very low density here, and then they increase towards the middle, and then they fade at the bottom, at least they fade off towards the right again. And then on the top lash, low density, high density, high, even higher density, and then it actually stops abruptly, and then there is maybe a little bit of density in the end. So that's what I'm looking for, and you can see it's pretty much the same for everyone. She's got a little bit less overall density, but you can see it's lower here, and then it increases towards the outsides of the eye. So I just move these guys a bit smaller like that. All right, so what I said now, let's just jump into this, move this down a bit, and then yeah, we start grooming. So what we need to do to start grooming is create an attribute paint node like this, and we can just call, so I think actually on default it is zeroed out, which is what we need. Let's just call the attribute lashes. You can be more fancy, you can call it density or lashes density or whatever you want to do, because it's actually like a vertex painting, so we just paint on top of the geometry. So what I said, let's just go in here, make it small and just draw, right? So if I draw a line now, it's a bit lagging. It might be because of the stream. Essentially, I'm just drawing this line here where the eyelashes, or the eyelashes hair will be. And then we do the same on the top here. I'm just following the curve. And we can, like if I just click and drag, it paints. And if I click middle mouse click, it removes paint. Right, so red is the full value, blue is no value at all. So if I click now middle mouse and I paint, you can see now it disappears. And I was saying that we have low density on the insides. So what I want to do now, go to the brush again, and I just want to make sure that I reduce the opacity, make the brush a bit larger, and then I just middle mouse click and paint a bit. So now you can see that I'm removing just a bit subtle the color again. So now it's greenish here on the inside, and then it increases, and then we have pretty much full density where the red parts are. And I just wanted to reduce this a bit here like that. And then for the bottom one, it was very low density, pretty much almost till half. So I'm just middle mouse clicking here, reducing the densities here like that. And then also on the outside again. So we have most of the density in the middle. Density just means like more hair pretty much. And I will also be using the density as a thickness multiplier as well. So when there is low density, there will be thinner hair. If you hit Control and click and drag, you will actually select a smooth brush, which will smoothen out your paint. And what you can also do is create an attribute blur, which is what I like to do as well, which will just blur whatever color you have on it. So make sure to select your attributes here, and I just want to call it lashes. And if I visualize this and I bring up my lashes viewer here like that, you can see now it's a lot smoother. Like if it's off, it's like this. If it's on, you can see it's like a really soft gradient. And I think this is pretty accurate what I wanted to do. And then we can quickly do the same on the other side. We have the groom. I'm not sure, it's a bit lagging. It's a bit annoying. I hope it's not because of this. I just hit the hair now, so maybe this will be a bit faster. Oh yeah, it's tons faster. So make sure you hide the hair for now. You can also hit C for the Groombear thing, visibility, and just show a hide hair gen, which is essentially the same. So now I want to paint the rest of her right eye. So I'm just doing the same thing. And then I'm just painting over here. And I'm drawing with a Wacom pen, so it's a bit easier for me to get the curves right. Now I just jinxed it. It's a bit too much on the top. And you can see this is like the process, right? So nothing too crazy. Grooming takes always a bit of time, but it's fun. For me, I really enjoy it because it's very calming, and you can see results immediately, which is great. So we set high density towards a 3/4. Maybe here's high density area. And then it fades off. So now we reduce the opacity, make it larger, and we click. Middle mouse click, so we're reducing densities like this, and at the bottom as well. All right, so let's see how they compare. I think it's a bit thicker here, so I'm just drawing a bit more like this. Okay, so this would be my density grid. Let's see after the blur how this looks. Let's bring this up. Yeah, so now it's nice and blurry. I think this might do it. What I like to do just to organize my nodes here, let's just move these guys over. And then I'm just selecting, at least just for the paint side, selecting them, hitting Shift O to create a backdrop, and I'm just moving this Alt, Control, no, whatever. I just move it here, and then we can colorize them. Essentially what I do, I just use the same colors, but I just use to put it to green and call this attribute paint, like that. So this is now with the painted attributes on it. So now if you go up a level again, I will not touch the guides for now. Sorry, the hair gen. I'll just jump into the guides now. So going in here, and now we just initiate the Groombear tool. So C, base options, tools, groom, which will create me the Groombear node. And so on default, if there is no input curves, there will be no guides as well, which is what I want. So if I change my visualizer here and I just view it like a flat shaded thing, I can go to C, brush, draw, make sure I have this selected, do this again, draw like this, reduce the scale. And now the lashes, they actually, do I have a side view? Not really. Well, the lashes, they do, like, they go, no, well, I just paint it. So they have some kind of nice profile to it actually. So they go downwards and then they tilt up. So they go down and then they go like pretty much like this, like they twist up towards the end. And now if I view it with this, you can see this is now the eyelash. And I think it's not bent properly yet. So what we can do now, we can go to the shape, make it larger, and then we can just shape it until we're satisfied how the lash looks. And if we need to move it or rotate it, we can actually try this tool again. Go to the edit, hit 4, select the primitive. Not sure why I'm struggling so much with this. Hit 4. I'm not sure why it does not do this, what it's supposed to do. Feel a bit stupid now here. What the hell? So that works. Brush, edit. And then we go back to the selection mode. I'm going to select 4. Okay, I was not selecting it properly. Now at least we have it. So now we've got the manipulator here. And what I want to do, I want to rotate it so it's actually going on the side like that. And this is essentially following the normals of the surface. And now with this edit mode, I can actually move them where I need them to be, which is amazing. And I can scale them and all sorts of things. And it will just work like a normal 2D or 3D transformation tool. So that's my first guide curve. And now what I want to do, go to the brush B and hit copy, and now it will just copy the selected one, and I can just move it and drag it over, and I can do it to the left. Now it will copy both because my brush is too large. I want it smaller, so now it's just picking this, and you can disable orientation, so it will keep that if you wanted to. So now we have on the same mode, so I go back to the edit and I'll just select 4 again. Now we have the same issue again. Let's see, I'm not sure why it's selecting now all the brushes, all the curves. Man, you see, this is a bit finicky. Let's just go full, edit, and hit 4. Oh, maybe because it's a copy, it's possible. Okay, I'll just go back to the shape, and then I'm just moving them over. Yeah, so I just want to have it follow, like go to the side, and I can, obviously we can just shape it where we need it to be. This doesn't do this. And I don't want to be like doing a one-to-one copy, because they are, like all the lashes, they are a bit different. Nothing is really exactly the same. So I'm just drawing or guiding the hair in this specific shape here, like this. And if you can also use the scatter mode, and if you select it to be initial brush, it will actually interpolate, which is cool too. So if I put it in here, it will actually interpolate between those two guides. But before we do that, I just want to copy all the other ones, or we can actually draw, which makes it a bit easier as well. And then we just draw here like this, and we will move them over in a bit. Like this, and then smaller one there, and I can move them afterwards. And the bottom ones, they do like have a bit of a different shape. They curve up and go down like this. Okay, let's see how it looks like this. Fairly basic stuff. And then we can just move them over. Well, I'm actually from Namibia. Actually, I was born and raised there, and I lived there for like 18 years. So I picked up my Afrikaans here and there. So I know a bit of the language for sure. I can read it well, understand it well, but if I speak it, I have to have a few beers in to actually speak it properly. So I'm just following the flow of the hair. So towards the outside, they actually, you can see they, oops, now I rotated it. They have like a little switch to the side. So I'm just trying to bring that in. Like that, they go down a bit. You can see like this takes a bit of time, and it's always, and that's why I thought like I do this live stream. It's just if you want to listen to it, obviously feel free to, but it's just a mundane task. Normally I would do a tutorial about this and actually just edit it and make it a bit so it's not super boring. But I guess for you guys, you can just lay back and just watch it. I'm changing to disabling maintaining the length so I can actually drag them. Not sure why it doesn't. There we go. To make them a bit longer. And I want to change the fall off to be flat, so I'm picking the roots and the tips the same way. I think the default is to be tips only. All right, so this seems to work well. Move them up a bit. The visualizer, they might be a bit too thick. I can just actually reduce the scale to a bit smaller by 0.05. Like this. And now I'm just scattering a few more guides in here. So going C, scatter brush, and I'm just placing them. Just if you have more guides, it just helps to actually find the right shape you need to be. Like this works well. And we can use the guides actually for clumping as well, which I will show you in a bit. So now we have a few more lashes, and I don't mind the separation that some are up and down. Obviously this one is a bit too far up. So we just go back to the move brush and just move this one down until it fits into the curves here, into the lashes. And I think this might do it. Let's just move it a bit like that. And maybe add, oh, these ones need some adjustments here. So let's go back to the shape and move them more like straight. And then the tips slowly go to the side. This one as well. And you can also change the bends, which is cool too. So if you have just specific ones, maybe one is going more downwards. And now let's say I want to select a specific one. I do a quick select option here. Man, I struggle with the Wacom to select the brush or the curves. It's really annoying. Yeah, let's just move the bottom ones. I think this is now good. So what we can do now is we just go back to the outside. So now we have guides on the right. Let's just go up and actually see what they look like if I generate the curves, generate the hair. So this is what it's happening on default. Because we don't have the density applied. So in the density option, we can go to skin attribute and we can find the lashes. So now it's only generating the hair where we painted, right? And now we can push the density up to get more hairs, something like that. I think it's like around I just googled that. I think it's around 150 to 400 lashes. Like it depends where you're coming from, what kind of type you have, but some lashes are thicker than others, right? So you can obviously play around with that. And I like the distribution, and it's fine that you have pretty much like 3 to 4 different layers here, which is fine, because what I want to do, I want to go to thickness, and I want to go to skin attribute as well, and in here I want to use lashes as well. So what this will do, it uses the density to multiply the thickness, so where it's fading off, they will be thinner. You can see now by just applying that the one with low density are thinner, and you can pretty much see this. I'm not sure if was it on this one? Yeah, you can see here that these hairs are very thin and low density, and then they get thicker like that. And you can see the profile of a lash as well. It's thin at the base, it thickens up, and then it fades off as well. So we need to adjust that as well. So this is what we have. So I said the profile needs to change. So let's go to the individual curve profile, and I just want to reduce the thickness on the base. So I'm just moving the slider down, so now it gets thinner towards the base, and we have this bulge. So they're thin, they thicken up like this, and then they go really thin, and I just want to add something here. So I think this is pretty accurate. We can move this big bulge towards the base a bit more. So yeah, I think I like this profile. We have a bit less hair here, so what we can do, we can go to our painting and go in here, make sure that is active, hit enter, and we can just draw a few more. Let's just increase the opacity here. By just doing that, we can actually increase the density, and it should give us more hair. And then we can also change the scattering, like how they are actually being scattered. So now we have a nicer distribution. And if you find a place where you have too much, you can just use the inverse. So you can just paint away some hair like that. So I'm just reducing them a bit here and there, which is cool. Going back outside, let's go back to this mode. And now we want to clump them so they are actually looking like lashes. And to do that, we just go in here and create a clump. So we can go to the hair gen menu at the top here. Clump guides. It doesn't matter, we are not in guides anymore, but we just want to clump the hair. And on default, the clump size is too large. So if we reduce the clump size, we can now see that we're getting these kind of lashes, right? So it's clumping. It's mostly 2 to 3 hairs which are clumped together, depending again if you use mascara or whatever. So you can see now this is actually a pretty large clump. It has like at least like 15 or 20 hairs, and then you have like more isolated ones which have 2 or 3 or something like that. And you can see now that just by doing that, we already get that fairly easily. And I would say this looks actually pretty cool already. It's a bit thin, so we can push the density a bit. What you also want to do, or can do, if you want to have the hair to actually follow the guides, at least the clumping, you can plug the guides into the custom clump curves, and now they will literally will clump around your guides if you want that. Like if you want to have very specific locations where you want the clump, you would do this kind of approach. Otherwise, you can just have Houdini deal with the clump size, and it will just do it for you. And I think we just do that for now. What I want to do first, just increase the density. So right now we have it on 18,000. Obviously, it's not how many hairs will be generated. Right now we have, if I jump in here, right now we have 120 curves. So it's not enough, I think. So we can boost it up for sure. So 18,000, let's just go to 50 then, make it even. So now let's see how many we have now. We have 350, which I think might be a bit excessive, but it's fine for me. Let's just work with that. So now you can see the clumps are very uniform looking, and we didn't adjust the profile yet because the default works fairly well, but we want to adjust it slightly. And the thing what I want to do is the base should not be clumping much. So what I like to do, I just remove the first one and move it over so we don't have much clumping on the roots. And we only have the clumping towards the tips. And I want to have it like something more like this. So the clumps are a bit more organic, I would say, like this. And then what I also like to do, I want to disable the extrude and blend. I just go to linear, and now you can see they actually follow in very nicely our profile, which we selected here. So now it's only clumping towards the top, and actually we want the tips to pretty much connect like this. And then a cool thing, what I like to do is use stray. It's like a stray rate. It means some of the hairs will not be affected by this. So I'm just increasing this. You can see now that they are actually being ignored. So if it's on 1, then you ignore all the clumps pretty much. So I just want to have maybe like a 30% stray rate like this. And now you have individual hairs which are not part of the clump. And I think the clump size is a bit too large still, so we can reduce it to 0.015, so we have smaller clumps. Maybe that was a bit too much. Yeah, so this seems to work. So now it feels very calmed and brushed. We want to add some modifiers on top now. So now we have our basic clumps working. What I want to do next is just to add some bends, frizz, and bend, frizz. Yeah, I think that's it actually. So first what I want to do is do the bend. So if I create a bend modifier, there is bend guides here. So by applying this, you can already see what's happening. If I increase the angle, you can see how they bend up and down. And this is typical for lashes. They are not all in the same straight line. Some are going up, some are going down. And you can just use this random angle. So my default angle is 0, so no bending. And then I just want to add some randomization like this. You can see now that some of them are going up and down. Pretty excessive, it's fine. But now it's applying it to everything. And what I want to do now is actually break it up. So you can go to the masking options here. And in the noise mask, if you select that, you can actually isolate or create like, it's pretty much like a fractal noise to only select a few or like very specific hairs. All right, so the frequency obviously defines the frequency of the pattern. It's hard to see though. Actually, there is some kind of red. It's just hard to see. Let's try to increase that. Like there's some kind of color shift here. It's only affecting now a small portion of it. As you can see now that these are blacked out, these are red. So based on that, it's actually applying the bend only to a few or isolated curves. It's not happening on all the ones now. And this is pretty much what I want to do here. And if I increase the frequency, we get smaller selections pretty much. And then we can play around with the bias just to select a few. Right, so now I can see that the bend is not applied the same way to everything, like that. So that's pretty cool, right? And the next thing is doing the frizz, and frizz is pretty much like a scraggle or like just like a frequency on top of the curve. So let's create a frizz guides here, which will give you this on default. Obviously the same deal, it's way too strong. But lashes do have some kind of frizz to it. They are not all in straight lines. You can see there's some kind of little curves going on, one going up, some are going to the side. Essentially, you don't want to go too crazy on this, but a little bit always helps. You can see now these ones are bending downwards and the tip is bent down, they go upwards, more straight line. So there's lots of randomization actually going on. Right, so now let's go to the frequency and reduce that. So by reducing it to a very low number, and we only want to affect the tips. We don't want the roots. So in the masking, what we first want to do is go to curve mask, enable that, and this will only affect the tips. You can see the tips are fully 1, which means they will be the only ones being affected by this. The roots are 0, so that's great. So now changing the frequency, you can see it's only applying it to the tips. And this again, I always go extreme to dial it in, and then I slowly back out of my settings. And I think this is a fairly good amount. Obviously it's now way too brushy, but then we just slightly dial it in. And we will do the same thing which we did with the other masking. So we only target a few ones, not all the ones. So go back to masking, and then we go downwards to noise mask on top. And then let's see, we do pretty much the same thing. We push the gain, reduce the bias, and we crank the frequency. And now you can see we only affect a few ones. If we boost up, you can see now that's very nice and broken up. And I think depending obviously again how that female is using her lashes, like what mascara or how whatever, like I don't know exactly what needs to be done, but I think this looks fairly accurate to a normal eyelash. Maybe they are a bit too long, but then I think lots of people would die for longer lashes, so I think we can just deal with this. Yeah, so now we did everything on the right side, so I will fairly quickly now disable this and jump in here and just do the initial guides here as well. So I'm just going to my draw, look from the side here, and now, as you all know the process by now, I'm just drawing them now fairly quick, and you can see that this is essentially the process or the speed you can work with Groombear. So we just do this. Obviously we need to place them in a bit better. Then we do the bottom one. Let's just first fix the top. It's always good to start from the outside first, and because then you can use the scatter to use the interpolation. So I'm just using the move brush now to just move them exactly where I want them to be. And then after I will just be rotating them. All right, so now we've got this. Now we go back to the shape. And you can see, like, by just utilizing that radial menu, how fast you can actually work with this tool. So now I'm just shaping them like that and like that. And then obviously I broke all my little draw curves now, but it's fine. We can just fix it up like this. And if you only want to work with one, you can do the quick select, which is a very nice helper. Thing is, using the Wacom, I have lots of issues just selecting that primitive here. Anyways. So we want them to go down slightly and then go up. It's good, and let's just do a brush, and we do a mask brush instead. Clear. There we go. So we want to go down, and then we want to go up. Just the tips. This one works well. Go back to empty and do the brush again. Okay. And once this is done, we just do the interpolation, and then we should be a lot faster. This might be a bit too long. So we can cut it, which is also a nice little thing. If they're too long, you just go to the brush, wherever it is. It's all the way on the top here. Cut brush, and you can just shorten them until it works. And feel free to, I'm hardly looking at the chat anymore, but feel free to ask any questions over there. I'm always peeking over if anything comes up there. So let me know any questions. Shape. All right, so this is now, I think let's just do the last one here quickly. and paint this one. Okay, so now we've got my initial guides for the top. Now let's just do the bottom fairly quick. Draw. I try to draw it a bit nicer now. Also, anyone, I'm sometimes playing FIFA while I'm doing this. If you want to play like a foot match or something, I would highly like it, because I don't have many people on FIFA to play actually like friendly. So it would be great if anyone wants to hook me up. I'm on Origin. Would be great. All right, so bottom lashes, I think that went fairly quick and went well. So I'm just using the scatter brush now just to place a few more brush guides in between. And you can see the interpolation works very nicely. It's very easy to place new curves in here just by doing this. Just checking the density. Obviously the left ones are way shorter, and the cool thing is if you actually model symmetrically and do the groom, it's a lot easier to just mirror stuff over, just because you don't need to do it twice, right? So you can get an exact mirror and then you can manipulate them after. So now I will just scale them using the scale brush, and I just multiply it with 1.2. So now they are just being multiplied in length, and like this, just to get more or less a matching length. Like that, bottom one. Obviously it's a bit hard for me to match them now one-to-one, but I think this does the trick. At least it's good enough for this video. So let's just see what the result looks like. Head out, view the hair, boom, and hide the guides. So now we've got lashes on the left, lashes on the right. So this was fairly easy to do, and you can see once the setup is done, you can just easily just paint them, and you're pretty much done with that. I'm just reading quickly. Yeah, you can just export the curves, like regular curves, and just read them wherever you want them to be. What tutorials of you? I'm just reading. Do you have any recommendations on what tutorials of yours use the AI noises? I don't have a dedicated tutorial on just those noises, but I think I'm using noises in pretty much all of my look dev tutorials. Like in any of them, I will always use a noise just to break things up. So I'm using them quite often. All right, so let's work on the brows. Brows will be a similar process, by the way. So we need to paint the densities first. So let's just go in here. And as you can see, I'm going now a bit faster over this because I showed you the initial one, so it should be a bit faster to do this. Just make sure everything is disabled here. Go into this. Let's just rename this to be brows. Hit enter, and then we just draw them. So they start off, it's actually, well, she has very thick brows. But even here you can see lower density towards the bridge of the nose, and then density increases. Obviously I think they are dyed or whatever she did here, but it's very thick towards the right. Let's bring up this one. But you can see it's the same, lower density towards the bridge of the nose, and then density goes up towards the side, and then length as well. Short hair here, increasing in length, and then the longest hairs are here, I would say. Let's check her out. And similar deal, lower densities, and then longer hair towards the outside, right? So I'm always doing this first, just to get a rough idea how it's supposed to be. And it's essentially the same for everyone. So they start off pretty much here, and they end pretty much around this section. We can do the same for this. So they start off somewhere around here and they end somewhere around here, and then the peak, depending now on your profile, so they go like downwards, upwards, downwards, they just go in a straight line. So we will, I think, do these ones here. So we start down, we go here, we go up, and then we go down. So this is pretty much the shape, and I'll just painting this in here just to get a rough shape like this. I think this is pretty good. And now we just need to fill it in. Obviously less density here, and then do this, and then I'll be just drawing this line in here. First line, and then we do the same, go up, and we go down. And then now it's mainly just fine-tuning it to make it the way you want it to look like, and the thickness, obviously. So this is, I think they go very thick here, but they will be thinned out. So I'll just be drawing them a bit thicker, and then I will do the opacity later. So I'm just drawing in the rough shape here first. Then we go thicker to the sides, and then we do this. Looks like a huge brows now, but you will get, I think you will understand once I do this here, what I'm actually doing. That's good. I think both are pretty good. So now what I'm doing now is doing the opacity stuff. So I'm just reducing my opacity in general, and then I'm just fading them out here. Like this, and towards the tops, slowly fading them out, and then on the sides here as well. We don't want too many hairs, like not too thick hairs. So I think this does it. Let's do the bottom one. And then we want some like little hairs here. Like there's like, people always have little hairs in the middle here. Obviously females try to just remove them, but they are there. Like I have them. I think everyone has them. And then let's do this. And you can see once you get the habit of doing all this painting work, it's actually fairly fast and straightforward to do. So this would be at least my initial shape. And now let's just go back out, and we go to we just create a new, so we just create the whole setup now. Instead of just creating using add fur, what I will do instead, I'll just click on generate, what was it? Generate hair? No. Create guides, and it will just create me that group. And again, I will remove them fully for this, and then in here I will just paint them using Groombear. You can use different approaches. You can use a curved vac, but I will use that when we do the vellus hair. We will use that instead. Actually, how long is this stream going already? 1 hour. Okay, we're good. We're still good, I think. All right, so now let's do the, can you import curves? I think you can import curves and use them, yeah. Like if you import curves, it's treated as Houdini curves, and Groombear just reads curves, so it should be just fine. So let's just create a Groombear node here. Actually, how do you like the Groombear stuff? Like what you're seeing, is it any better than what you're used to, or is it the same, or is there some issues with that? So how do you feel what I'm showing you, at least now with my understanding of Groombear, is that any help for you guys? Is that a better workflow? So now I'm using a scatter brush, and I'm just scattering curves, right? You can see this is right now the density, and it might be a bit less, like not enough density, and also the length is too long. Let's go 0.05 and increase the density by reducing the closeness. I think this is pretty good, at least in terms of density. In terms of the guide density. So now I just want to create my guides in a similar location as we painted. So I'm just pretty much roughly doing this. like a unibrow kind of thing, or like a very thick brow. It looks odd, but it will be fine because these are just the guides and not the hair itself. All right, then we have, which actually is good. I think she here has a great like idea what we'll be doing. So I can hit C actually and just crop them. Can do the same with her actually. Okay. So yeah, you can see that the direction they go actually upwards, and then they slowly go towards the right. So if I go C, brush, comp brush, and I make it a bit larger, and I just fairly quick just do this, you can see now they all have a direction. Right now they are a bit thick. Let's just reduce the width again to 0.5. You can see that they are, well actually they are pretty good. So I'm just giving now the rough direction. So it's actually like a flow. It goes up and then it goes down towards the side, and I would do the same here. Follow the curves like this. All right. So this is essentially the basic direction, and we want some here as well, like that. And maybe here you can see now how they are nicely interpolating, which is, it's super nice. The interpolation is lovely. So let's go back to comb. Yeah, well, I haven't played with Yeti much. I used to work with Yeti, but I don't know, I stopped at some point. So this is now the rough direction. So what I want to do now is go more granular, and let's say we start with the ones here. I just want to move them upwards. So we got these kind of shapes, right? And then we have a few ones going downwards like this. And it's also called flow, I think, groom flow or something like that. So you just want to give a rough direction. And then you can see now here, they all go towards the middle. So the ones from the top, they curve downwards and meet in the center, and the bottom ones curve up to meet in the center as well. And these ones go to the side like this. And then we do the same from the top here. So the top ones, again, they slowly start to move towards the middle like this, and then the bottom ones move up towards the middle, and then they meet in the center. And now next thing is what I want to do is just adjust the length. So we can actually use a shape. Let's try if that works well enough. We go into the shape mode and we maintain length, disable this. And now if I actually draw, you can see I'm extending them. So I'm just extending them in the middle here, and then the ones on the top go longer as well. And then these ones here are a bit longer. It's similar to the scale brush, but it's kind of like gum. You can just pull it out. It's like sculpting. It's pretty cool. So now we have longer hair towards the sides, and we do the same here. And move them so we have a lot longer hair here. And then we also need to lift them up, but I think we will just use modifiers for that. It's a bit easier. And I think this would be we need to clump them a bit. So go to brush and clump them. And if I just clump it, you can see what's happening. We create this nice kind of flow. And this is what I want to do. Obviously not as intense. So if you hit Control and middle mouse drag, you can reduce the intensity of this. So you just give it a rough shape. And it's a lot easier to do this. And the slower you get, the more curves will be affected. So now you can see they're nicely pulled towards the middle here. And we do the same thing here as well. Okay, so now we have rough curves. Let me just read the comments. Yeah, 1 2 Obviously symmetry can only be used if your mesh is symmetrical, which this one is not, so that's why I need to do it twice. And this is a head scan, so essentially the grooming is done on the rest pose where it's symmetrical, and then after that you can obviously deform it how you need to be. I'm using actually some of the tools as well from Houdini, like the comps sometimes, and you can mix and match. Like if you want a feature from Houdini's tools, you can just use a draw from here. So you can use both. So it doesn't really matter. You can also create more Groombear nodes if you want to have like save points or whatever. So you can have Groombear for your base, and you can add frizzes or I don't know, different brushes from Houdini directly, and then you can add a Groombear node again. So you have very flexible. Yeah. All right. So now let's do some. Oh, did I actually do that there? No. Okay. Let's do some lifting. So we can just use lift guides, which will just lift them up slightly. I'm not sure why it's cooking now. I'm not sure why it needs to cook my geometry now when I use the frizz. Anyways, I'll just stop that and do manual here and go up. And in my groom, I can actually use the sub geometry for my VDBs, which we actually generated and never used yet. So I'm just using my VDB out. So now actually I'm specifying what my rest skin VDB is instead of it creating it itself. So if I change my mode back to auto update, this should be now a lot faster. So now we have them lifted, and obviously we don't want them to lift as much. We want a slight amount of lift, and we want to randomize it so we have a minimum lift and a maximum lift. Don't go too crazy. And then we want a bend, so we lift and now we do a bend on top, and we want to bend them in the root direction. And you can see now what's happening. So we can increase the bend and increase the lift, so they go a bit hand in hand, because we will only bend the tips back down like this. And essentially now what you can do now, you can now use you can now create another Groombear node on top and just have it work a bit better. But I think this is at least good for now. And then I want to create a frizz just to get some randomization again, at least some different kind of directions of each curve. Reduce the frizz frequency, and we only want to affect the tips. And then let's just play with the frequency, something more organic. And then we want to create a mask as well, which is a noise mask, which is only affecting a few of those guides. Let's actually go lower. Yeah, I think this is pretty good. All right, so now let's see what we actually did here. So if I now go select my groom here and I select generate hair, it should generate the hair on top. So this is now what we have. And obviously right now they are not following, sorry, they are not on my, not using the density, sorry for that. Skin attribute, we want to go to brows. So now it's only where the brows are. And then let's first, sometimes the viewport acts out. Actually, I need to assign the shader first. And go to hair shader. And let's go back here. There we go. So now we have the hair. And what we still want to do is actually apply the thickness. So we do the same thing. Thickness gets the brows. No, sorry, this was now on the lashes. We need to be in this one. Thickness, skin, lashes, brows. There we go. So now you can see they fade off thinner here, and then we have pretty much the results which I wanted to. Still, we have too much density over here, and we want to maybe shape it a bit nicer. I think it works a bit better on the left here. And then first of all, we still want to do some clumping. So if I create a guide clump again, clump guides, we get this. And we can also, let's just see how it looks if we clump it from our guide curves like this. And this is what that will look. Let's go to linear blend, and this is how they clump now using the guides. I'm not very fond of the results, so let's just reduce the clump size overall just to get some kind of clumps. We don't want too many though. Yeah, something like this. And then again here we do a frizz in this one as well. So we frizz the guide so we get some more broader motion, and then we frizz each individual hair as well. So I'm just reducing the frequency again. We only affect the tips, and then we get these kind of breakup as well. Something like this. Don't go too crazy, just really subtle amount. And I think this works pretty good. And now if you feel like your density is not enough or whatever, you can just fairly easily go to your geometry side. Make sure your paintbrush is selected, and then you can just paint, right? So, or you remove some paint. So I'm just control middle clicking here. This is a bit slower because it's actually generating quite a few things in the background, but you can see it's working. We remove hair on the sides, and we add more hair in the center now. You can see now it's slowly fading off, and we wanted to add more hair here, increasing the density overall like that. And we do the same here, paint some hair, and then we just want to reduce it again on the sides here. And I think the length is not perfect yet. We will need definitely longer hair still. Okay, and then also I want to add a very small amount of hairs just right underneath the brow. So we just reduce our opacity. And if you want it to be a bit faster, you can just, as I said before, you can just hide the hair. This didn't work. I don't know. And then you just, you can just really quickly just paint some hair here. I just want some really thin hairs just at the bottom here. And maybe a bit more there and there and there. Here and here and here. Remove these guys a bit more. Okay, let's see what this does. Okay, so we have now like really isolated hairs here and there. And we can also push our density a bit. So it's now on 5,000. Let's go 10, double the amount. So which means more brows. I think now it's slowly getting into the right idea. We might have too much clumping, obviously, if I look at this. So let's just reduce the clump blend in general, so it's not as clumping as much. Like this maybe. And I think this might do it. And also in the generator hair gen, you can reduce the relax iterations, which is more a uniform distribution. So let's go to the hair gen. Where is that? Oh, here. This will pretty much not have them uniformly distributed. So if you have more, you can see now they are distributed equally, but you don't want that. You want random placement. So I'm just reducing the amount to 1, maybe just to 1. And then this is pretty much what the brows look. And if I save it and bring the lashes back, we have something already like this, right? It looks very natural, I think. Not too like picked or perfectly brushed brows, but I think this is natural. All right, so for the last thing, what I want to do on this, and in terms of the grooming, I just want to do the vellus hair, the peach fuzz. And for that, we do a bit different approach yet again. So first of all, we do some painting, as we always do. So attribute paint, paint, and this will be the vellus hair. I think that's a Latin term for peach fuzz. Peach fuzz is the really, really, really small hair which you have all over your face. Like it's really soft and really thin, and most of the time it's white. And the older you get, the longer they get, and then a bit more density and whatever. So you can see like older people have little mustaches and long hair and here. Obviously, I'm talking about females now because men most of the time have beards. Chat question: will you be doing class master classes on this, or creatures or animals? I am getting into fur grooming. It's a bit different than humans or characters. But yeah, I'm definitely getting into this for sure. So on default, we do not have any hair. You don't have much hair on your noses, not on the T-zone, but you have a lot on the sideburns and on the temples. So I will be just brushing in with a low density. And before, you can see it's doing this, all the hair stuff. So I'm just disabling the hair gens. And now we should be faster in painting. Yeah, all right. So now I just want to pretty much brush where I want to see those hairs. And we want a lower intensity so I can be more freely when drawing here. So as I said, we want hair here and here. And then we want definitely hair at the bottom, chin area, neck area, and then the sideburns and the face. You can see I'm very freely just drawing the shapes. Then we have them on the temple sides and a bit on the top here. And this again is the peach fuzz, right? So you have it also on your ears, like really fine hairs on your ears. Bottom here. All right. Not so much inside. Let's see. And we will do a blur again as we did before. So just to soften out these spots, like really subtle. And then what I want to do, I just want to reduce the opacity even further just to have some information here and there. It's not much, but a tiny amount. And definitely what I don't want to have is hair on the lips. So I know I removed it already, but I think I might accidentally have painted on here. All right, so no hair here, and obviously we don't, this is just for the guides. Sorry, this is actually for the hair. Sorry. So yeah, we will only be generating hair on these areas. So I want to create another attribute blur. And pick vellus like that. And now this should be blurred. If I view the vellus hair, we can increase our iterations. You can see now it gets softer. And I think this might do it. Obviously, we can paint it after. All right, so now let's do a whole new hair gen setup. So I'm just selecting Emily here. Go to add fur. And we don't have any animated skin, just hit enter. And now it is generating all the hair we need. Moving this over, and we actually need to rename this. This was brows. So is this. And this one would be vellus groom. And again, all right, so now we have this, and that. Pick a different color. All right, for this, I want to show you something very cool, which is called guide curve or curve advect. And this is our current density, which is fine. Let's go in here in the groom and make sure that we disable the visualizer for the vellus. So like this. And next up is we use curve advect. So if I click curve advect, questions, do we want the length first? We don't have a guide length. Let's just adjust the length quickly. Where was that? Here. So it's not super long hair. but it gets longer on certain areas. So we have longer here on the sides here. The question is, do we first want to do a curve advect? Let's just do the curve advect. I will increase the length so just see what's actually happening. And if I click curve advect, it will generate a few nodes, which are like, it adds a mirror node, and it adds a few other fancy things. It was using the skin VDB, and I need to pick my VDB first from our SOP. SOP is our location, our VDB location. And now this should be a bit faster. We want to delete the mirror node because we don't have symmetrical face. And what it allows us now is actually to go into the draw curve. And if I would just hide the guide geom, if I would draw now a line, I'm actually specifying the flow of the curve. So if I click and drag, you can see now that the curves are following, or the guide curves are following my initial painted curve here. And that's fairly nice because you can now be very detailed about where you want to have, or how you want to have the curves to flow. And you can see how they are changing direction. And then you have the peach fuzz. Let's just, if you want it faster, you can just view from the guide curve, and then you can actually bring back the guide geom. Actually not do that. And then it's a bit easier to just see where you painted your curves. So these hairs I think will flow like this. And then they flow around your eyes, maybe in this direction, and then they go this way, flow around the bridge of the nose, they go this way, they go this way. On the ears, they go downwards on the earlobes, I think. Go around here. Do the same on the other side, like that, and then they flow on the top. And I think that's at least good enough. Let's just see how it looks. So now we have the flow of the curves going this way and that way. Is that something you didn't know? Like, did you know that curve advect exists? Because I find this very satisfying to work with this kind of thing. And I'm smoothing the velocity, so it's a bit smoother, the whole interpolation. And now what we want to do next is adjust the length. So now we can try the set length brush actually, which is a default Houdini one. But then we need to, let's see, actually draw hair, screen brush. And in here we can use extend, I think it was called. Extend is similar to that, but I thought adjust length. Yeah, so now we can also do the length adjustment. So what I want to do here, so this is not using Groombear because we don't need to be very specific about those curves, right? So we can just roughly use this brush, and we can use random length if you want to. So not all of the ones are the same length, but for now, I'll just keep it off. And I want the target length maybe to be 0.05. It might be a bit long still. Okay. And then, yeah, I'm just drawing it fairly quick just to like make them longer, because on temples it's a bit longer, at the bottom here it's a bit longer hair. And maybe here a bit longer. And that's essentially all I have to do, just increase the length a bit here and there. And then next up would be lifting them. So they are not always super flush to the skin. I'm not sure if I have super good references now. Well, you can see them here, right? Like these very tiny hairs here. That's what I'm trying to achieve here with this. And they are similar to what we did before. They are lifted and then they are bent back down. So let's create a lift and create a guide bend. And we can also do a frizz. So this is essentially all the notes I'm always doing. And then also the clump at some point. But let's just go to the lift first. And yeah, I think the lift is fine. Might be a bit much. Let's do a random lift again to get a bit more freedom or variation. And then back to the bend. And yeah, that's pretty cool. And then we do the frizz, and we just don't have a very low intensity and only do the tips again. And then just reduce the frequency. Now we have a different, they're going a bit everywhere now, so I'm just reducing the intensity, the amplitude. And I think this is just fine. So this would be the basic idea of the peach fuzz. And if I now bring back the hair, you can see the hairs are flowing in a nice direction. Let's just go to the spreadsheet to fix the viewport. And this would be the vellum hair, vellus hair. And let's just apply the density skin, and we select vellus like this. And we also want to apply it to the thickness, so we multiply it as well. So we do skin attribute and we do the vellus as well. So now we have very thin hair like this. And now it's a bit, we don't have enough hair, so we can either increase the density here like this. You can see now they're slowly fading in here. And essentially this is obviously you need to spend a bit more time. Maybe we have a few too many hairs on the ears, but I think essentially this is correct in terms of the look and the density. You can clump them, but I think essentially this is fairly well. We can do the frizz still onto each individual hairs, only on the tips, and then obviously we want to only work in, we want to reduce the frequency again, intensity again. So just, there's always some kind of minor breakup, right? So we can also use a random amplitude, which will help as well, because then they don't all move the same way. Something like this. And you can do the same with the lift again. We can try it, lift guides. Oh, afro hair, yeah, you can totally do that. I'll show you with one strand or something. Didn't the lift work? Okay, so I want to randomize this as well. So we want to go very low, 2 and maybe 4. So we just have some, oh, it's actually too much. Something like this. So this would be the lift brush. So what we want to do next, so there was just a question in the chat if I can do afro hair. So I think we can jump on that right now. Let me first take a quick bathroom break. And I'm back. So if you just joined, thank you very much for joining. I'm just doing like a little grooming introduction with Groombear and Houdini. I just finished up the vellus, the peach fuzz hair, and now we have brows, lashes, and the vellus hair. And this is now what our digital Emily looks like with these hairs applied. And now there was a question in the chat if we can do afro hair. And we can totally do that. All right, so let's do that quickly. I'm just hiding all these hairs, and I'm just creating a, let's go to the left here, and we just want to add fur to her, enter, and enter. So now we're getting another group of hair generates. And now for the grooms here. So I'm just doing a very quick quick guides now for the hair, head hair. Create the groom node. Then we go to scatter and we scatter some hair. Right now the density is a bit too much, so I'm just reducing the in the mode options the closeness to maybe 0.1. It's better. I can increase the length to 1, like this. Let's just work with this for now. And now what we can do, we can obviously add some breakup here. So if this would be a curl, we want to do, I think there was this swirl thing. Yeah, so we can use the swirl brush just to get, obviously not exactly afros, but this would be now curls, but the question was about afros, so we will be doing that as well. All right, so, and you can clump brushes. Let's just do a quick clump. And we just clump a few of these together. Not too excessive, but something like this. And then we can do the swirl on top. So we're just creating some rotations in them, right? So they're intertwined a bit. All right, so if this is what we have, and now we can actually just go to an oval shape and move them down. I don't know, we can also just do a quick mask selection of these here. And there's also the mode to make a screen brush, so we can actually paint in the air, which is a lot easier. So now we just, let's see, we just pick, quick select these guys, move them downwards, quick select these guys, move them to the right, quick select these hairs and bend them. All right, so this is, I don't know, some kind of whack job here. But now if we go up to the hair gen, this is where my hairs are generated. And now what we can do, make sure to go inside here. And if you now do a clump, guy clump, am I blind? Clump guides. Yeah, I am. So essentially this is now what it is, right? So we want to guide it, clump it around the guide. So now we're using the guides to clump, and now there's an option to actually add some curling, which is cool. So if I bring that up, you can now see that the hairs are being curled around those guides. Oops, don't go crazy. And we want the profile to be pretty much everywhere. So like this. And we don't want to obviously go too crazy, but you can increase the frequency if you want to. And then right now you can see it's breaking up. We don't have enough points. So what you need to do, go back to your guides and make sure that your guides have enough points. What I mean is like segments. Right now we don't have enough segments. So in Groombear, and I think you can do it on the guides on the top level here, just specify how many segments you want. So I just want to maybe go to 30 segments here. Now I resample them, and now you can see that my hairs are getting the same kind of treatment, right? So going back down into the hair gen, this is now the frequency, and you can see now we have almost these like crazy curls going on. And now if I go too low, you can see already that it's breaking again. We don't have enough points, right? So it's pretty much the same deal. So we go even higher. Let's maybe try 80, resample them. Obviously, the more you do this, the more intense your groom gets, right? But if you want to detail, there's no way around this. All right, so now this is what we see, and now you can just adjust the intensity like that. And what else can we do? We can adjust the amplitude, so we have maybe less amplitude in the base, so they actually are coming together like this, which is nice. Frequency, what else can we do? We can actually obviously break them up. This is the frequency. Yeah, and then you obviously can apply the frizziness. You can add fractal clumping if you want to, so they are clumped a bit more in detail. You can see now this almost looks like afro hair now. Well, I think to me it does. Or like super curly hair, I guess. And now we can do the stray again. So if we do stray, some hairs will not get affected. You can see that they are not really clumped anymore. You can have use this different mode. Is that actually good? Now it's just clumped super tightly. Let's just use the extrude and this. Yeah. So this is definitely one way of doing this kind of hair. And obviously, is that what the question was? Like, can you do this kind of hairstyles? I think it was though, but yeah. So now obviously we can just make it a bit better, right? I just really rushed into this, and you can see now this is what I had. So if we go back to the scatter brush, we can actually now copy them. So if I go to brush, copy, brush B, copy, make it larger, my radius, and now I can click and drag. Oh, sorry, I need to go on masks full. Now I can just move them over, so I don't need to do all the work twice. Move them. Move them downwards, and obviously you can spend lots and lots of time in this. I don't care much about the back because we will not see her from the back. Put a few ones here. Actually, I didn't want to do top hair today, but anyways, now it's so much fun. Why not do it? We want to clear a few hairs here. Hidden control, you can actually remove them if you're on a scatter brush. Control will remove hairs. You just want to make sure we still follow the hairlines precisely like this. And now we can go back to the shape brush and maybe move these ones a bit downwards. And make it larger. Right, so now she's got some wacky hair. And let's see how that looks. It's always a nice nice surprise now once you did the guides, and let's see how the hair looks. And yeah, there we go. One click afro pretty much, or yeah. And they're all pretty individual, and obviously it doesn't fit her ethnicity, I think is the right word. So yeah, this is a very quick thing for this. So obviously the next question would be, hey, can you render this? And yes, we can. And I will be using Arnold for this to render. And I think we should do it. We still have a bit of time. I think, what do we have? 1 hour, 44 minutes. Yeah, let's just quickly do this. All right, so I think this complete, unless you have any specific questions about grooming, at least for this now, feel free to go ahead. But I will, in the meantime, will just be starting on the grooming. Sorry, on the do I want to do that? I'm just thinking if I want to have some density maps here, but no, it doesn't matter. We don't need to have it perfect now. So let's just go up to our different contexts. So we want to go to the material context, and here we have our default generated hair shaders, which we will not be using. I just want to create an Arnold material builder. Want to name this as my skin, so I just call this AI base, and in here I want to create a surface shader. I'm not sure why it's now generating or cooking the hair. I don't get that. It's weird. So I will just change my updating to manual, so it will not update the viewport. Alt E. Oh, let's render. Yeah, let's render that stuff. Creating a surface shader. Now we create another one, and we call this. What do we want to do? Browse. And we want to. Let's just actually, before we do that, just go in here and swap this out to a hair shader. And this is using Arnold, right? It's not now the Mantra shaders or Houdini shaders. It's using Arnold ones. So we've got the brows. Now we have the lashes. We have the vellus hair. And we have the top, or we just call it hair. So we've got 4 shaders. I think we get 4 shaders. Perfect. We go back to object level. We go to this here, and we create a camera. Control click on the camera icon. Why did that not do it? Is it because I'm not in the update mode? Maybe. Let's just go back to auto update. This will cook stuff. Is it done now? Yeah. All right, so I'm not sure now. It's something is whack here. I'm just selecting like a little nice camera layout. Control click again on the camera, which will create me the camera, which is great. We want to zoom out a bit, so we see your whole head like this. Move it over, go out of the camera mode and save it. Then we want to go to lights. We want to go to right click here, or tab in here, create an Arnold light. So we have lights and camera. So next up we go to my preset, studio preset, which is a sky dome with some studio layout. We don't want to display it in the viewport. We go to our out context, which is essentially out means the render engine essentially. So in here we create an Arnold render settings, Arnold output ROP. In here I have my, now is a good question, are we going on GPU or CPU? I hope it will not lag the stream. So as soon as it starts lagging, please let me know. I will reduce my system load to just use half my threads. So it should not affect it. I hope it should not affect it. We do not have motion blur. Ray def is on 2. I'm just reducing this to 1. Sampling is 5111. And for now, I'm just going to my object level, and I am just working on the lashes just for the first test and to see if everything is working. Let's just move the, let's see how this looks actually. Let's just move the PureRef out of the way. Move it smaller. Yeah, you will not see it there. Okay, and go to the render view and save it. So, I'm not sure, sometimes this just crashes for me. Can it be converted to hair for Unreal Render or make the hair cards for iClone? I'm not so sure about all of this. I never worked really in Unreal, so I can't say much to it. Maybe someone in the chat can help you out with that. Obviously I forgot to assign the shaders, so that is a noob thing I did here. So first go to the Emily tab. This is already assigned to my base, but for the hair lashes we need to assign the shaders. So why is this not in here? Interesting. I'm not sure why the hair did not show up here. It's there, but it did not show up in my picker. Let's go back to object level. Why they don't show up here? Anyways, they are there. It's just an update issue, I guess. So we have the base, lashes, and then we go browse in here. And we go Velis. And the last one would be hair. All right, and if you haven't done so, it would be great if I could get a like. If you're still here, I'm sure you like what I'm doing, so it would be great to give me a thumbs up on the YouTube video. And if you haven't done so, I would highly appreciate it if you would subscribe to my channel. Subscription help you in gaining more views because more people will get notified. So all of this will help me quite a lot. All right, so we get the lashes, and I think they work as expected. The default color is a melanin value of 1, which means fully black, and we can just adjust it slightly. So go into the hair shader and reduce the melanin. So now we've got like blonde hair. We're gonna go to a dark brown. And one thing in the out settings, what I want to do, which I don't have on default, is enable progressive rendering. It's just a nicer way. You don't see those buckets. It's a bit, just feels a bit better. All right, so let's just stop the render and actually bring in all the hair and see if we can handle it. So bring it on. So I think all of this will cook first. Okay. And one thing I think which is an issue with Arnold on default is that the curves are not interpolated properly. But we can just have a look if this does it. It will take a bit longer now to generate, I think, because there's a lot more curves, but we are back already. All right, so this is now what we get. And as I said before, this is using a black melanin. You can see now the curves are totally messed up. And I was saying that this will happen because we did not select the correct settings. So if we go back to the object level and we go to the hair gen and the Arnold tab, you can change, I think the basis needs to be B-spline. And let's just see if this does it. Let's see, cooking. There we go. Once it's on B-spline, you can now see we get the nice curvy patterns. And I think this is what we want to do. Yeah. So right now it's very black. So we want, we can just do some nice stuff with the hair here. So it's hard to read it as well. So if you go to the material here and we go to the hair like that, Shift W opens that little rollout. Actually, I need to swap it to my different view here. There we go. That's better. I just picked a different view transform. So now we see the curls. And in the hair shader, let's just reduce the melanin to something a bit lighter. Something like more in the brownish colors. And then what I want to do is increase a melanin randomize, which gives me different colors per curve, which is a natural effect. And now each curve is a bit different. We don't want melanin redness because we don't have red pigmentation for her. And we can increase the roughness so it's a bit softer. It's not super pingy. And if I render the whole thing now, this will take a bit, but you will see that this will look already very natural just in terms of that basic setup here. And obviously it doesn't fit her features, this curly hair, but this is what it is. The brows are still very thick, but we can adjust that as well. Can reduce the thickness overall. And I think now the afro kind of style looks not too bad. It's something. Now let's just work on the vellus here. That's the peach fuzz. Go back to our vellus shader, and this hair is pretty much transparent, so we want no redness. We want a melanin of like almost white, and then we want to increase the roughness so it's not super specky, and we can also reduce the opacity, which is where is that again? Advanced. Yeah. So you can essentially what you want to do is just reduce this slightly so it's a bit kind of see-through. And they should not be very visible as well. It should be almost not there. So this is still too much. So I can reduce the thickness as well. So if I stop the render and I go to my object level, go to vellus hair gen, and the thickness is right now 0.003, and we just want to have it like this. And I also thought that the brows are a bit too thick, so we just do a similar thing. Thickness right now is 0.003. We go maybe to 0.002 and hit save, and let's just render this and see what we get now. You see now I saved it. I hope I did, and now we got the crash. It's super weird. Like, I'm not sure. It's some kind of with the Arnold side. There's some plugin issues. I'm not sure. It keeps crashing once you change settings on the object level, and then if you have an active render running, I don't know. It crashes for me, and I need to report that to the Arnold, to the H2A Arnold guys to see what's happening. Yeah, and let me know if you have any questions. The stream was almost done. I was just setting up the last shader settings, and then I think I'm good. So let me know if you have any questions. Like, we have now 47 people still watching, so feel free to ask away. We can still talk about stuff. And again, it would be great if you can join me and all the rest of the guys on Discord, which is a very great platform, which I started to grow like a month ago. We have a pretty large following already. It's like 1,100 members, and it keeps just growing. We have challenges and no prizes yet, but I'm actually on it to get some kind of prizes and some licenses maybe. So keep active and join us. So you're the ones, the first you will be the ones of the first to be able to participate, which is great. All right, let's try to open the crash file. No crash file found. So let's just open this and hope for the best. I'm not sure when I last saved. I don't think it was too long ago. Hope. And yeah, all the source files of this, like the HIP files and whatnot, will be available. So be sure to check it out on Patreon, which is my go-to place to upload source files and for you guys to have a bit more direct contact with me. All right, so we are back, and oh, it actually saved. I think I changed the brow thickness, which we still have. That's great. Okay, so we have the thickness adjustments. Yeah, let's just go back to render view and see what we get. All right, so yeah, I think they are good. Let's work with the brows. Let's just first go to the brow shader material, and we want to go to the brows. And what I like to do here is do some the Discord channel is actually, the link is in the description below. I hope it is. If not, it's just called CG Lounge. Let's just bring it up like this. I'm sure someone in the chat can send the link as well. Also, thanks, Edgar. I learned quite a lot from YouTube on Houdini, and I also followed the Steven Nipping tutorials, which you can find on CG Recruit. I'm not sure exactly what the website was, but something like that. So what I want to do here is go a bit different on this approach. I want to have root and tip colors, and right now we actually don't have it. And if we want to do that, you can use a ramp RGB. And if we plug this ramp to the surface shader, we get directly the feedback. We want to change the pattern to be V or U. V or U is the question. We want to have it to curves only. And I think it is correct on V. Always keep mixing it up. Let's see, yeah, I think this is correct. So if I create this and I just put it to, yeah, I think this is correct. Yeah, so now we have a root tip color variation, right? So we have black roots, white tips. And what I want to do now is, let's say I want to do some randomization. What I can do here is go to a jitter color, plug in our color, plug this into the input, and we go RGBA out again. So right now there's no difference because we don't have any colors. So let's say I want to pick, let's pick some brown, dark brown. And for the tip, we pick some kind of yellow, desaturated, or let's pick a brown and just change the hue slightly. Go a bit lighter. So right now we have a root to tip variation. Yeah, I'm on Houdini. I'm following the CG Wiki channel, which is great. There's lots of crazy people on there, so I'm learning quite a lot there as well. So color jitter, and now I want to do I think per object, I want per face, and I want to change the face to uniform ID. And now if I do a max gain adjustment, you can see now that we get a variation here. So we get darker and lighter colors. We can do slight hue shifts. So we have a bit of red, maybe not too extreme, and we can play with the saturation. So we have desaturated and more saturated browse. So if I hit enter, we actually save the snapshot. So this is what we have now, and this is before. And let's actually, can I close this? And now you can see the difference. So this is with the variation, and it's a lot nicer what with the variation, because you get way more detail. And then you want to plug this into your base color and make sure then that the melanin is to 0, no redness. So this is now essentially just reading my base color. And I'm pretty sure that this will be too light in terms of the color, just because the base color is just a lot brighter than it's supposed to be. But then we can just reduce the gain. So you can create a color correct right after and just do this. So if I create a color correct node and I just plug this in here, go to input, and then we go out to base color, and we can just multiply it down or expose it down. We can just multiply it. So now we have darker colors, something like this. Obviously it's not ideal, not yet at least, so we can adjust it a bit more, but this is, I think, the way to go. And if we want to achieve the same effect for the head hair, obviously it's pretty much the same thing. So what we can do, can just copy this, go to hair, paste it in here, and we can hook it up first to see what we get. You can see now this is our ramp, which we have from root to tip. And I'm not sure why we have we don't have color. It's weird. This is not supposed to reduce the color. Interesting. I'm on the wrong color here. Not sure why it's grayscale. Any ideas, anyone? Maybe we just need to restart it. Oh, we got a crash again. I hate it. I knew it. I just saved, I think. Anyways, I think anyways this sums up the tutorial. So I will just try it one more time, and if we crash it again, then I'm just done. So click. What is click the export divide on the shader? What does that do? Export divide? I'm not sure exactly what that does, so I haven't seen it. Yeah, Stephen Nipping is pretty good guy. He's an ILM, he's an ILM employee, so he's very technical on what is right now being used in production. So it's very good to follow this guy. He has lots of great tips, especially like hidden tips in his videos. And then I learned quite a lot from him. CG circuit, yeah. Yeah. Let's wait until this opens up, and then we'll see if we can get this ramp to work on the top here. All right, loading all the plugin stuff. Let's just load the last Emily file. And you see how it is. Always live streaming is always a bit of a trouble. It's always a patience game, and you don't really trust or you know what the software is doing for you. So it's always a bit difficult. But yeah, that's why if I do tutorials, I mostly save a lot and edit a lot as well. So let's just jump into the material, jump into the hair shader. We have all this. So it's still connected. So let's just see if I jump into the render view and see if we get the color back. It might have just been an update thing. Yeah, it was. I figured. Okay, so now we have the hair. And you can see now it's colored nicely. If I bring the jitter color, you can see that we now have per curve some randomization. We have the color correct again. So if I just reduce the gain here, we have a lot darker hair. And this is essentially what I wanted to do with this breakup. So if I go back to the correct shader, if I hook this up to the base, plug it in, and we need melanin to be there. And this would be a lot brighter hair now. So let's just see how everything comes together. And yeah, so yeah, this is now rendering, but I want to thank you and everyone who joined this Sunday. For most of you guys, it's already late in the evening. I have 3 p.m. now. It was a long stream, but I enjoyed myself. I learned quite a bit again with the curl stuff, so it's always nice to work and learn. And I want to thank everyone for joining. And again, as I said before, I always appreciate every like I get, so thank you guys for doing that, and obviously keep those notifications on so you can always be one of the first ones to see new tutorials on my channel. And again, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter. These are my main communication tools, Instagram and Twitter, and then obviously YouTube and a bit of Facebook, but not too much. So yeah, this is now the render, and you can see we have the nice curly hair. We've got the nice brows, nice lashes, and the little peach fuzz. And once you have a skin shader on top, this will work a lot nicer. Cool. Yeah, I want to thank you guys. It was an introduction, and I think I'll just keep doing this. I love grooming, so I'll just keep doing all of this. I can actually make my face a bit larger. So yeah, I want to thank everyone, and have a great start of the week, and obviously stay safe out there. It's a difficult time for everyone. Everyone needs to stay at home and whatnot. So it's always good to just keep to the rules, do what they ask of you. So anyways, enough blabbering. So thank you guys. Have a great Sunday and a great start of the week. See you guys.